Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're alive. I want to thank you all for joining me today. And also, forgive me if the stream comes off a little glitchy. If that does happen, my apologies. Just some things I guess I have to still tighten up on, but we'll get there. We'll definitely get there. Today should be a very good show today. And once again, I thank you all for joining me. Quick announcement before we get started. Just Talking with me and Rob is going to be coming back very soon. I know some of you have been wondering, what happened with you and Rob. How come you don't have Rob on the show anymore? You don't have him on the channel. You guys aren't streaming together. Well, that's because I fired Rob, I fired him. But, I decided I felt bad for him. I had mercy on him. So I said, Rob, I know you're down bad right now ever since I fired you, brother. So I'll bring you back on the show. But what we're going to do is that we're actually starting a new channel together moving forward. So also with that being said, Just Talking will be on a new channel and they will be live streamed, obviously, Just Talking. But after the live stream, the full show will be directed to Patreon and for channel members, right? If you want to watch the full show after the live stream. And then from that point on, for those of you that are subscribed to that channel, when we start uploading, what will be uploaded are the clips from the live stream. So that will be one of the perks of being being a Patreon member, as well as being a channel member of this channel. The live streams with me and Rob that we do on our new channel, the full shows will go on Patreon and it will be available for channel members as well. And then, like I said, after the fact, what will happen is that clips will be uploaded on that channel versus having the full show just up there. So like I said, that's one of the perks. And I'm very excited to get that started. And I want to thank all the Patreon members as well as the channel members as well, who have been very supportive of me for all this time and have also been very patient with me as well. I haven't uploaded on Patreon as well as done anything really with the channel memberships the way that I would have liked to. But moving forward, starting really next week, and then from all this time forward, for as long as I'm on YouTube doing what I'm doing, you will get a constant, steady flow of content. So like I said, I appreciate everybody who has supported in that way, and you're definitely going to get your money's worth coming in a very, very, very near future. Now, let's get into today's show. And before I get started, let me see something very quickly. If you guys can hear and see me clearly, please hit 1, because it feels like something might be off. So please hit the 1 if you can see and hear me clearly, because it doesn't appear that something appears to be off. So let me know if you can see and hear me clearly. Please hit the 1, and then we'll get the show started. Okay, I see 1. I see 1 came in. Are there any more? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, something seemed off on my end, but I guess we're good. I guess we're cool and we're good to go. Perfect. All right, so let's get started. Now, as you all see, the title of today's show is there's a 101-year-old ex-Nazi who was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Yet, the woman that set the events in order that led to the murder of Emmett Till is still free. I believe she's about 80 something years old now. She lives in Raleigh, I believe the city is called, North Carolina. She's just out here free. She is the cause of that young man's death. And she's out here living her best life still, being a senior citizen, while in Germany, they're still out here actively prosecuting and throwing in jail former Nazi members. Now, I want to pull this first article up for you right now, and I want to go through a few articles. And like I said, I really wanted to talk about this today because I just found it very interesting, when I first came across this, because what it shows to me, right, is when I see an article like this, Nazi camp guard, 101 years old, given 5 years for aiding murder, right? This really goes to show how much America despises Black Americans. You have an event like what took place in Germany decades ago, close to 100 years ago, And they're still in Germany actively pursuing and prosecuting and throwing in jail members of the Nazis. And they're in their hundreds now, in their 90s, and they're still after them. But when it comes to anything revolving around Black Americans, specifically the descendants of American slavery, there is nothing that you can point to me, not one piece of legislation, not one action, that has ever shown the United States government showing any remorse, let alone any attempts at reparations or any type of redress for the crimes that is committed against Black Americans. You can't show me anything. The only thing that people will point to, that they love to point to, is affirmative action. And affirmative action is something that we have gone through multiple times before. Affirmative action has benefited white women the most. Now, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole of how, and I'm not going to read this article because many of you, we all know this already. That's not new news. But affirmative action is the only thing that people can ever seem to point to when it comes to some form of fake reparations, when it comes to some form of redress that the United States government has issued towards Black Americans. But we all know that this is false, right? Because it's benefited white women the most. But I want to get into this article right now, and then a couple of articles concerning former members of the Nazis who are still being hunted down and captured. And then we're going to go into the Emmett Till article as well. And ultimately, where I want to land at is the reason behind why you see, even till this day in 2022, Germany is so persistent, right, in tracking down former Nazi members, as well as why the world, European world that is, which includes the United States of America, the US government, has bended over backwards to consistently deliver reparations over and over and over again and deliver justice to Holocaust survivors. We're going to get to why that is. But first, let's dive into a couple of these articles. But this is going to be pretty quick. I think today's going to be a pretty quick show as well, hopefully. So let's dive into this. This article right here, once again, is called Nazi Camp Guard, 101 years old, given 5 years for aiding murder. Okay, so we're just going to scroll down. I have a few things highlighted. Well, what I had, of course, everything is not highlighted like how it's supposed to be. Thank you, Google Chrome. But let's just go ahead and get into it. The oldest Nazi criminal ever to stand trial in a German court, he had always denied being an SS guard at the camp. He was found guilty of aiding and abetting the murder of 3,518 people. He was complicit in the shooting of Soviet prisoners of war and the murder of others with Zyklon B gas. Am I saying that right? Zyklon B gas. The defense had called for his acquittal and is set to appeal against the prison sentence. Okay. Now, this is a direct quote from the individual that was sentenced to 5 years, the former Nazi. He says, "I don't know why I'm sitting here in the sin bin. I really had nothing to do with it," Joseph S. said in his closing statement on the eve of the verdict. So he's denying this pretty much all the way to his grave. This former Nazi is saying that he had nothing to do with anything. He's not a former Nazi. You got the wrong guy. But the German courts have determined otherwise. They said, no. We're not trying to hear any of that. You're guilty. Now, this next part that I have highlighted right here, it goes down, it starts to explain when this whole thing started, when the German courts really started going after former Nazi regime members. Putting Nazi camp guards on trial only became possible in 2011 when ex-SS guard John Demjanjuk, if I'm saying that right, that's a German last name, it's hard to pronounce, was found guilty. The verdict prompted a search for individuals who were still alive. So all of this really began back in 2011, and ever since then, the German government has been headhunting former Nazi members. You have this article here from CNN from last year in 2021. And I'm not going to read what I have highlighted there, but it's The US deported a 95-year-old former Nazi concentration camp guard. So there was a former Nazi concentration camp guard that was living in Tennessee, and the US deported him so that he can face trial last year. You also see here, and this is a funny one to me. This is funny. And maybe it shouldn't be funny, but it's a little bit humorous for me. This was a former Nazi camp security guard who was set to stand trial last year. And this was a woman. She actually fled. She made a run for it at 96 years old, if you can believe that. 96 years old. She said, "No, y'all not about to get me." I'll read what I have highlighted right here. The woman's name was Ingrid Furchner, 96, was due to stand trial for complicity in 11,000 murders, but she failed to turn up, and the judge issued a warrant for her arrest. The defendant was detained by police hours after disappearing from a nursing home in the town of Quickborn. She fled to Hamburg, where she was picked up on a local street. Now, I'm not going to lie. There's a, I'll put the camera back on me for a second. I'm not going to front. There was a little part of me, that felt a little bad for her. Now I get, everything she did was horrible and atrocious, right? But I mean, she's 96-year-old woman was on the run, and they found her a couple hours later, like in the neighboring town, just in the street. She didn't have nowhere to go. But she knew one thing was for sure. She said, "Y'all not about to lock me up and throw me in jail at 96 years old. I'm about to make a run for it. I'm out of here. See you guys later." But of course, like I said, she's 96 years old. So they caught up with her rather quickly. I think if she was a little bit younger, she would have probably got away, right? She would have probably at least been able to escape she would have probably been able to hide out somewhere for probably at least a week if she was about 40 years younger. But at 96 years old, yeah, you're not really getting too far trying to make a run for it on your own. You're not getting far at all. She got caught within a couple of hours just standing around in the street looking lost. But let's get more into these articles, right? Because I want to shift over now to what happened with the finding of the warrant for the woman that set the events in order that led to Emmett Till's murder. This article is from the Huffington Post, and it's titled 1955 warrant in Emmett Till case found. Family seeks arrest of woman. Okay. The arrest warrant for Carolyn Bryant Donham was discovered last week, and Till's family wants her to be charged nearly 70 years later. A team searching the basement of a Mississippi courthouse for evidence about the lynching of Black teenager Emmett Till has found the unserved warrant charging a white woman in his 1955 kidnapping, and relatives of the victim who initiated the hunt want authorities to finally arrest her 70 years later. A warrant for the arrest of Carolyn Bryant Donham, identified as Mrs. Roe Bryant on the document, was discovered last week inside a file folder that had been placed in a box. LaFleur County Circuit Clerk Elmis Stockhill told the Associated Press on Wednesday. The search was started by the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation and included two members of Till's family, cousins Deborah Watts, head of the foundation, and her daughter, Terry Watts. They want authorities to use the warrant to arrest Donham, who at the time of the slaying was married to one of the two white men was married to one of the two white men tried and acquitted just weeks after Till was abducted from a relative's home, killed and dumped in a river. "Serve it and charge her," Terry Watts told the Associated Press in an interview. Now, here's the interesting part. When I got something highlighted in blue, it's going to be something that's important, okay? And if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Thank you very much. Evidence indicates a woman, possibly Donham, identified Till to the men who later killed him. Okay, here's the important part. The arrest warrant against Donham was publicized at the time, but the Lafleur County Sheriff told reporters he did not want to bother the woman since she had young children to care for. Now, isn't that something? This woman, Carolyn Bryant, is the reason that Emmett Till was beaten and dumped in the river. And but the sheriff couldn't be bothered with going to her and serving her up her warrant because he felt bad for her. He said that, hey, she has two young children of her own. You know, she has to care for two young children. So I don't want to disturb her with an arrest warrant. We'll just put her husband and the other co-defendant, I believe, is called on trial, and we'll get them off. She can stay home with her children. Okay. District Attorney Dwayne Richardson, whose office would prosecute a case. Now we're in the present time now, just so we're all caught up. District Attorney Dwayne Richardson, whose office would prosecute a case, declined comment on the warrant, but cited a December report about the Till case from the Justice Department, which said no prosecution was possible. Now, I just want to show you guys who Dwayne Richardson is very quickly, just so he's identified. So this is him right here, Dwayne Richardson. He is the district attorney of the Fourth Circuit Court District of Mississippi. So there's your man. And as we read in this article, he had no comment on the warrant. He didn't have anything to say about the warrant. All he did was cite that, hey, the feds dropped this case already, so we're just going to leave it at that. And if you want to read more about the feds dropping this case, here's the article right here titled Emmett Till Investigation Closed by Feds, No New Charges. I'm not going to torture you guys by reading all this that I have highlighted. I'll spare you all that by not trying to read all that right now, but if you want to read up more on that, this is the article right here. But just in a nutshell, they dropped it. The feds closed it. No new charges are going to be had. And this is who the district attorney, that's what the district attorney cited when he chose not to have any comment about the warrant, but he just defaulted and said, hey, the feds dropped it already. So, next question. Now, let's get back into the original article, right? Because at some point, the warrant may be able to be used again, but it depends on if new evidence comes up. So I want to read a little bit of that right now. Arrest warrants can go stall. Am I saying that right? Can go stale. I'm sorry. Arrest warrants can go stale due to the passage of time and changing circumstances, and one from 1955 almost certainly would not pass muster before a court, even if a sheriff agreed to serve it, said Ronald J. Ryclark, a law professor at the University of Mississippi. But combined with any new evidence, the original arrest warrant absolutely could be an important stepping stone toward establishing probable cause to initiate a new prosecution, he said. So it's going to take new charges or new evidence to come about for them to even be able to possibly reissue that arrest warrant. But here's the thing, if we're being honest, right? If they wanted to, they could find a reason to arrest her. When folks want to, when these people want to put you in jail, by hook or by crook, they will find a way to lock you up. They're not all the stuff about statutory limitations being up and things of that matter. None of that stuff means anything. If the folks really want to get you, you can ask Bill Cosby about that. A length of time had passed. What's it called? Statutory limitations. All that stuff went by. Even if Bill Cosby is guilty of everything they said he did, it shouldn't matter because too much time has passed already. But they still found a way to tweak and alter the laws in order to put him in jail, at least for a little bit of time. So when they want to get you, they will. But the thing is that when it comes to Black Americans, anything and everything goes concerning not issuing justice. That's something. It's like I said in a video previously. Injustice towards Black Americans is as American as America can get. Anytime you harass Black Americans, violate them, they don't receive their justice, that is America. That's part of what this country is and what this country does, right? But like I said, you see with Bill Cosby, when they want to get you, doesn't matter how much time has passed, they'll get you. And the same can be said for Carolyn Bryant. If they wanted to lock her up, if they wanted to seek justice for Emmett Till, they could. They're just choosing not to. Now, why is it that, and I want to get to kind of the final conclusion of this video. Why is it that in Germany, they're going so hard with prosecuting and going after former Nazi regime members? Why are they doing that? Even you see, here in America, this government here in the United States, and I did a whole video about it. I think it was last week, on numerous occasions, has gone out of their way to pay reparations to Holocaust survivors, whether it be by pulling the money out of their own pocket via the federal government, getting the money from the private sector, and even strong arming European governments to pay up. The United States government has gone out of its way to make sure that justice is served for Holocaust survivors. And like I said, as you can see in Germany, they are continuing to go out of their way to prosecute former Nazi members. Now, why is that, right? Well, the reason is this. Pan-europeanism is a very real thing. A lot of times when we're talking about pan-europeanism, we don't use that term. That's not something that's popular to use. So we just say the global system of white supremacy. But the global system of white supremacy is nothing more than pan-europeanism. And they have a code as well. They're on code, just like how in this space, we always talk about being on code. Black folks got to be on code. Well, Europeans, which include the American government, they're on code as well. One of the best examples of that, and some of y'all help me in the comment section if I'm getting certain parts of this story wrong, but one of the best examples of that was, I believe it was in the early portion of the Trump administration, if I remember correctly. The former Zimbabwean president, who has passed away now, he seized the land that was in control of the European colonizers in Zimbabwe. He snatched that land up and he redistributed it back to the Black Zimbabweans, right? He gave it back to the people. Now, what happened after that? Immediately, the United States government, along with other European nations, initiated sanctions on the Zimbabwean government. How many of you all remember that? If I'm not mistaken, oops, I hit the microphone. If I'm not mistaken, it was Zimbabwe, correct? It was a Zimbabwean president, and they immediately put sanctions on him and on the country. And you would think to yourself, what's going on in Zimbabwe? What does that have to do with the United States government? Why do you guys care? I mean, that's their issue. That's their problem. And it's justice. These are European colonizers. You know the history. They took the farm. They took all this land from them. They're just taking back what's theirs. But no, the United States, as well as other European nations, they weren't going for that. They weren't trying to hear that at all. And they immediately put sanctions on them. And what was so cold-blooded about it is that when you let folks talk about it, right, non-Black people, when they talk about it, because I've heard these conversations, they make it seem like when the president of Zimbabwe took the land from the European colonizers and redistributed it back to the people of Zimbabwe, the rightful owners of the land, they ignore the fact that sanctions was put on Zimbabwe, and they make it appear as if once they took the land back, They didn't really know what to do with it. They don't really know how to farm. They don't really know how to do international business. So everything just collapsed. They love to spin this kind of fake narrative of Black folks being just unintelligent and low IQ, right? But they don't tell the part of the story that no, it's not that they just didn't know what to do with the land once they got it and once they took it back over. That's not what happened. As I said a couple seconds ago, once they put the sanctions on them, no one was allowed to do business with Zimbabwe again. Nobody. So whatever the Zimbabweans thought that they were going to do in terms of getting their land back and doing international business and gaining some sort of prosperity, the Europeans put the clamp on that immediately. And once that president died, I believe his name was, help me out in the comment section, was his name President Mugabe? I think that was his name, of Zimbabwe. It might have been Mugabe. I don't remember. But once he passed away, the president that then took over Zimbabwe, he immediately gave all the land back to the European colonizers and all the sanctions were lifted. So understand, Pan-Europeanism is a real thing. And like I said, they are very much so on code, okay? And when you break that code within the white supremacist structure, you will pay for it because you're messing up what we got going on. And those who were done wrong, they'll receive in return everything that they deserve, everything that they feel that they're owed, and whatever help they feel is necessary. This is why you see right now with the whole Russia and Ukraine conflict going on, America, as well as all other European nations, they have no problem dumping billions upon billions of dollars onto Ukraine, just printing the money out of thin air like it's nothing, just giving it to them. But here's what's interesting about that situation, because I have an article that I want to pull up that truly proves what I'm saying to be true about Pan-Europeanism, right? That we often describe as the global system of racism, white supremacy. I'm going to pull this article up and I want to read some of it for you because it's very interesting. It's going to prove my point right now. So give me just a second while I pull that up. Let me move this out of the way so you'll be able to see. And thank you everybody who supported and has contributed so far to this show via super chat as well as via Cash App as well. It's definitely much appreciated. And like I said, if you're tuning in late, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you subscribe to Patreon, that's only $3 a month, as well as, or if you also join the channel memberships, that you can see that button next to the subscribe button. Starting next week, there will be a lot of content that's going to be uploaded to Patreon, as well as for those of you who are channel memberships as well, because me and Rob will be bringing back Just Talking. We will be live streaming on a new channel. And once we finish the live stream on that channel, the full episodes will be uploaded for Patreon members to watch the episodes in full, and for channel members to be able to watch the episode in full, while clips will be loaded up to that channel after the fact, clips of the show, right? And there'll be some other new content coming as well. But like I said, it's always much appreciated when you guys contribute to the show and contribute to the channel. And I appreciate everybody's patience with me on Patreon as well as channel memberships, because I haven't uploaded like I'm supposed to. But moving forward, starting next week, you're definitely going to get your money's worth. Now, let's get into this article that I feel really proves that what I'm saying is true concerning Pan-Europeanism, right? That we often call the global system of racism, white supremacy. And this is very, very interesting. Let me pull this up. Here we go. Now, this article came out back in May 24th of 2022, right? And the article reads, Kissinger says Ukraine should cede territory to Russia to end war. This is an article that went under the radar. I didn't see many people talking about it, mainstream press talking about it, but this is very interesting once you dive into it, because it shows how real Pan-Europeanism actually is. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said Monday that Ukraine should cede territory to Russia to help end the invasion, suggesting a position that a vast majority of Ukrainians are against as the war enters its fourth month. Here's the important part. When you see that highlighted in blue, you know it's important. Speaking at a conference at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Kissinger urged the United States and the West not to seek an embarrassing defeat of Russia in Ukraine, warning it could worsen Europe's long-term stability. I want to read that one more time. Speaking at a conference at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Kissinger urged the United States and the West to not seek an embarrassing defeat for Russia in Ukraine, warning it could worsen Europe's long-term stability. Kissinger told the US and the rest of Europe, fall back, because this isn't going to end well for Europe. This is not going to end well for the global system of racism, white supremacy, right? Pan-europeanism. After saying that Western countries should remember Russia's importance to Europe, after saying that Western countries should remember Russia's importance to Europe and not get swept in the mood of the moment. Kissinger also pushed for the West to force Ukraine into accepting negotiations with a status quo ante, which means the previous state of affairs. So Kissinger is telling the United States as well as the European powers, fall back, get off of the back of Russia, and make the Ukraine give up some of their territory that the Russians want. Why? Because what's going to happen here if they allow this to carry on? And there's an article right here. It's from the Daily Telegraph. I don't have it pulled up, but I remember initially when I came across this information, it was from the Daily Telegraph. And they were saying it on there that what Kissinger is afraid of, right, is that if the United States continue to go hard on Russia in defense of a tiny, somewhat insignificant nation, as far as the global powers are concerned, if you keep coming to the aid of Ukraine and you keep going hard on Russia, just completely bent on destroying them and stopping them from doing what they're doing, what you're going to do is to further push Russia towards China. Let me put the camera back on me for a minute before I continue reading, right? You're going to push them further and further towards China. And in pushing them closer towards China, you're essentially breaking apart the European structure, right? You're basically putting a huge splinter in the middle of Pan-Europeanism. What do I mean by that? If you look at the history of the world, right? And when I say that, I'm specifically talking about World War I and World War II. And I'm going to pull these articles up, matter of fact, but I'm not going to bring them on the screen. I'll just leave myself here while I pull it up so I can read it. Anytime the you-know-what hits the fan on an international level, Russia always sides with the United States, Great Britain, and the rest of the major European powers. Every time. When the you-know-what hits the fan and there's a huge international issue going on, Russia, no matter this, regardless of the fact that Russia is like the black sheep of Europe, they're still family. So when the you-know-what hits the fan, Russia always joins up with its family members, right? Matter of fact, I'll pull it up so you can read it along with me, so you don't just see me looking at the screen. So let me put this up in front of you right now. I just want to just point that out very quickly, right? World War I. World War I, also called First World War or Great War, an international conflict that in 1914 to 1918 embroiled most of the nations of Europe, along with Russia, the United States, the Middle East, and other regions. The war pitted the Central Powers, mainly Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Turkey, against the Allies, mainly France, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, Japan, and from 1917, the United States. That's World War I. Now let's come to World War II, the big three, as you can see. In World War II, the three great Allied powers, Great Britain, United States, and the Soviet Union, formed a grand alliance that was key to victory. But the alliance partners did not share common political aims and did not always agree on how the war should be fought. Now, regardless of the fact that they didn't agree on how the war should be fought and all that good stuff, it's irrelevant. Because, like I said earlier, when the you know what hits the fan, Russia always links back up with his family. Every time. Russia always links back up with the rest of the European nations when you're talking about world war. This is now going to be essentially the first time in world history that if this Russia-Ukraine conflict continues on, and if United States, Britain, France, Italy, and all these Western powers, European powers, continue to push against Russia, they're going to push Russia in the hands or in the arms of China. The Russians and China are already pretty much cool for the most part, but they're risking that alliance being stronger. And in risking that alliance being stronger, you're talking about a possible flip, right, in world powers and who's really controlling what and dominating the globe. For 400 plus years now, the global system of racism, white supremacy, pan-europeanism, has been the rule of the land. But Russia, alongside with China, as well as China building up the continent of Africa, regardless of how you might feel about that, because I know a lot of people have their, when it comes to China and Africa, and it's just another neo-colonialism, and China's not really trying to help Africa, and it's a new colonization of Africa. Whatever, that's irrelevant for the sake of this discussion. That doesn't mean anything right now. The fact of the matter is, Africa is on the rise because of the investments that are happening from the Chinese, right? So what you're seeing here is a reversal where now the global system of racism, white supremacy is somewhat being threatened by people of color. You all know I don't rock with that term, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll use that, by people of color, led by the Chinese and backed by the continent of Africa, because of what China is doing on the continent of Africa. I wish I had this article in front of me right now, but I don't. But how many of you, let me know in the comment section, how many of you heard about recently the Ukraine wanted to hold a conference call with the nations of Africa? I forget how many countries are in Africa, like 20 something or 30 something countries in Africa. But they wanted to hold a conference with the nations of Africa, basically wanting their help, wanting their support. And out of however many countries are in Africa, only 4 showed up to the conference. Matter of fact, let me pull up how many countries are in Africa. Let me let's see if I can pull it up right now. Let me see. I'm sorry, I should have had this already. How many countries in Africa? Let me see this real quick. I was all the way off. There's 54 countries in Africa. 54 countries are in Africa. Okay. Only 4 showed up to the conference to at least hear what the Ukrainian president had to say. The other 51 African countries said that's what they told the Ukraine. And a lot of African countries have been thumbing their nose, if I'm using that term correctly. They've been thumbing their nose at the European nations as well as America as of recent, because of the backing that they're getting from China. The US and other European nations, they've been trying to kind of reestablish their foothold in Africa, on the continent. And a lot of those countries have been saying, man, get out of here. It's over. You had your chance and you blew it. When you were here, you kept depleting us of all our resources. Now you want to come back because you see China's helping us out. Nah, we're good. We're good. So that's what's happening right now. And that's what these European powers are afraid of. Now, once again, I see some people saying in the comment section, China is recolonizing Africa. I get all that. That's a whole nother discussion in and of itself. But that's besides the point at the moment. Because the reality is what these European nations are looking at, especially when it comes back to the article. Let me pull the article back up for a second. Let me pull this back up. When it comes to what Kissinger is talking about concerning telling the United States and other European nations, fall back on pushing so hard on Russia, because what you're going to do is push them into the hands of the Chinese, and pushing them in the hands of China, you're making them that much stronger, which threatens the global system of racism, white supremacy that much more, because you're essentially pushing them into the hands of so-called people of color. You're pushing them into the hands of China and the continent of Africa at this point. And China, too, is also very slowly getting a foothold in Latin America as well. They're not doing it as easily as they did it in China, as easily as they did it in the continent of Africa, but they're trying to creep in there. They're definitely trying to creep in there. Thank you very much. Y'all know I can't read. I believe this individual's name is Charlotte. Is it Charlotte? No. Oh, my goodness. I don't know why I can't read people's names, but thank you very much for the super chat. And it reads, "Stay amazing, Tony. Ukraine is a neo-Nazi country and they have been welcomed in California. However, 55 to 60% of Black veterans are homeless like me. This is exactly, excuse me, this is extremely evil. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support." Now, I want to read a little bit more of this article that I have highlighted. Then we can go ahead and shut this live stream down for today. So I want to read a little bit more of this just to kind of prove the point that I've been making. Kissinger's comments come as I'm sorry, give me a second. Let me close this window really quickly. Okay. There's neighbors' kids are outside. It was a little bit loud for me. But let's carry on. Kissinger's comments come as world leaders say Russia's war in Ukraine has thrown the world international order into question. When they're saying this war has thrown the world international order into question, they're talking about the global system of racism, white supremacy, also known as Pan-europeanism. That's what this war between Russia and Ukraine are doing, infighting between Europeans. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen told global leaders in Davos that the war is not only a matter of Ukraine's survival or an issue of European security, but also a task for the entire global community. I'm going to repeat that again, but also a task for the entire global community. She lamented Russian President Vladimir Putin's destructive fury, but said Russia could one day recover its place in Europe if it finds its way back to democracy, the rule of law, and respect for the international rules-based order, because Russia is our neighbor. That alone right there, that last sentence that I read you, said all that needs to be said. They're literally telling you, this woman, right, who is the European Commission president, so so we're talking about the president of, this might be a stretch, but we're talking about the president of the global system of racism, white supremacy. I'm sorry, I need to close one more window. The neighbors are killing me right now. I apologize. Give me a second. Okay, maybe you guys can't hear that, but I can. First, the neighbor's kid was outside, and now the dog is like crying for no reason. It's really distracting. But let's get back to what I was saying, because, like I said, the European Commission president. So we're talking about the president of the global system of racism, white supremacy, right? The president of Pan-europeanism is literally telling you in that last sentence that I just read, despite the fact that Russia is the black sheep, we want them to come on home. We want them to recognize the error of their ways and come back into the fold. Okay? That's what she's saying. I'm going to read that sentence one more time, right? She lamented Russian President Vladimir Putin's destructive fury, but said Russia could one day recover its place in Europe if it finds its way back to democracy, the rule of law, and respect for the international rules-based order, because Russia is our neighbor. Russia is family, is what she's saying. They're family. They're Europeans just like we are. And as she said, and as Kissinger said in the earlier sentence, this whole war between Russia and Ukraine is throwing the international order in the whole international order into question. Okay? It's throwing the whole international order into question. It's throwing the global system of racism and white supremacy into question. They're looking weak right now. Pan-Europeanism is looking weak right now. This is why you saw at the beginning of this war with Europe and Russia, or with the Ukraine and Russia, that I'm not going to play those video clips because I did them in previous live streams, but you all remember all the news outlets, including here in the United States of America, when the war first started, everybody was crying, oh my God, we can't believe this is happening in Europe, not in Europe. The blonde hair and blue eyes, we're not Africa. We're not the Caribbeans. We're not the Middle East. This is Europe. How many of you all remember that? I'm sure you all do. It wasn't that long ago, obviously. They were all crying about how they can't believe this is happening in Europe. Why? Because they're trying to keep the global system of racism and white supremacy intact so that the international order isn't disrupted. Because if it is disrupted, what does that mean? Well, it looks like things are going to swing in the way of China and into the hands of China. And then swinging into the hands of China, China also have backing them the continent of Africa. And like I said, it's happening very slowly, but China is inch by inch creeping its way into Latin America as well. So the play that China is running is that they're kind of putting on a front, because we don't, the Chinese government, they don't care about anybody but themselves, right? But they're essentially putting on the front of, hey, us people of color are running things now, right? They're going to start backing the continent of Africa. Well, they are, obviously, and they're slowly starting to back Central America and South American countries in order to stand up tall to the old rule of the global system of racism and white supremacy, the old rule of Pan-Europeanism, right? So if this war doesn't stop, you're going to push Russia in the direction of China, and everything's going to spiral out of control, okay? But essentially, by explaining all this right now, I'm trying to also, like I said, go back to showing you why you see such a strong effort within Germany to continue to go after these former Nazi soldiers, as well as the rest of the European world, including the United States government, their efforts of continuously delivering justice to Holocaust survivors is because they're all one big family. It's all about Pan-Europeanism. It's all about making sure that everybody stays on code as it pertains to Pan-Europeanism, right? That's what this is all about, and that's what you see going on. And this is why you don't see justice going the other way for you when it comes to Emmett Till and Carolyn Bryant. It doesn't matter that she admitted that she lied about Emmett Till, right? It doesn't matter that there's an old warrant that should have been served, but they don't want to serve it up because they said, oh, time expired, but time didn't expire for Bill Cosby. None of that stuff matters. When it comes to you, there's no justice. Why? Because you're not a part of the fold. You're not part of Pan-Europeanism. You're not family. You're the help. That's what they brought you here for originally, right? You're the help, So no justice for you. But when it comes to our own, we're going to make sure that we stay on code with this Pan-Europeanism. So with all that being said, that does it for today's live stream. I don't need to beat a dead horse any more than I already have. We're almost approaching an hour. And I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We have 349 people that appears to be in here right now. So please make sure you hit the like button on your way out. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Also, make sure that you follow me on social media as well. All the links will be pinned in the comment section below. And it's also in the description box below. Hit the description box. You'll see all my social media links. You can follow me on there. I always forget to say, on the live streams, make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video. But like I always say, it serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. Also, make sure you subscribe to the emailing list. That link will be in the description below as well. And if you want to show your contributions to the channel, if you have an appreciation for the work that I do on here, because you know you're not going to get this kind of information on CNN, MSNBC, or any of these other Democratic news networks, as well as the Fox News as well. Fox News, they're not going to give it up like me. You can show your contribution through Super Chat right now. You can hit the Super Thanks button if you're watching the replay. Also, you can send your thanks and appreciation to CashApp. That is $TD-HIP-HOP. Or you can join the Patreon and join the channel memberships as well. Ooh, that's a long outro. Anyway, let me get out of here because I have to close these windows and I'm getting hot now. So let me have this little cold water. So you all have a good one, man. It was a good talk. It was a good show. I'm out of here. Peace.